Today, I'd like to define a few terms so there's no misunderstanding about what I'm encouraging you to do and what I'm encouraging you not to do. Now, this program hopefully helps those of you that are out there on the streets or homeless or untethered, um, but also I hope it just shines the light on what the homeless experience is like and gets past some of the stereotypes and some of the assumptions of people who aren't homeless, who've never been homeless. So first off, I at the end of videos for the most part, I try to end up with my catchphrase, "Stay homeless." What I mean by that isn't that I think homelessness is something you should choose and aspire to, or something you should uh, do forever. My I think it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that if you live somewhere where it's cold, you're more than likely not going to want to stay out in the freezing weather. If that means you can accept housing somewhere to be safe, then of course you need to do whatever you need to do to be safe. Here in Las Vegas, it's the heat. Although I had a particular bad time with the rain. And the reason for that is number one, because it almost never rains here. So when it does, it really seems to puddle up. It's the drainage isn't so good. But if you have bad shoes on, you're gonna it's like ice. So I fell down quite a few times just trying to walk on a wet sidewalk. There's nothing especially slick about it. It was the bottom of my shoes that were slick. And of course, the first night I was homeless this last time, it was raining. And so as I laid down on the sidewalk by the public library, I was laying down on a wet and cold sidewalk. That sticks with you. So, that's the elements are always going to be with us, and we have to manage them the best way we can. But I think for the most part, you have enough common sense to make the choice that's best for you, considering the circumstances when it comes to your own safety. Now, the other issue that I wanted to talk about today was whether or not what the purpose of this, what the definition of homelessness is. And I apologize. I think I've mentioned before I've seem to be suffering at the moment with some memory loss, so I get stuck sometimes. So, but I'm not going to stop and try to make it look better because I got new glasses. That's about as good as it's going to get for a while. Anyway, I digress. Homelessness is a state of mind. You're homeless long before you're actually on the streets without a place to live. You're homeless long after you've found a place to live. So that what happens is that you're becoming untethered from the world. You 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 don't deliberately want to um, ignore society's rules, and I really wish homeless people would stop littering so much. But maybe that's an issue everywhere. Maybe that's an issue here. I don't know, to tell you the truth. But if you're untethered, it means that you don't have any connection to society. You're not able to follow the normal daily routine that most people follow. You're not able to participate so much in the normal routines of the average citizen. Not that everybody participates as much as they should, but still. So basically, as time goes on, your mind becomes somewhat untethered to thinking right And that's where you run into the issue of permanent homelessness. But I can tell you from experience that if you're yanked off the streets and you get help, which is a wonderful thing, you then need to at least recognize that in your mind you're still homeless. You're not going to just suddenly become whoever you were at your best. I can tell you generally each time that I found a new place or someone helped me out, I behaved like a homeless person. I was clean though, I mean, that's not the point. But I found it difficult to not go outside to relieve myself at night. I found it difficult to unpack my plastic bag or my roller bag, whatever I had. I tended to live out of I didn't know how to organize my things anymore. So you're basically always thinking about what you need if you become homeless the next day. I think some call it housing insecurity, but it's definitely an insecurity, that's for sure, because I might find a wonderful place to stay, I might find a wonderful job. In my mind, I'm still thinking about the streets. Not that I'm tempted by them, but just that I'm fated to that. I think that's my fate, no matter what I do. And it's not because you want to you just give up or you're flawed. It's that you've been through a trauma, and so when you've been through a trauma, the trauma still lives with you. You're looking over your shoulder. You don't know if it's going to return. You have a sensitivity to losing anything or to feeling like you don't belong. In the case of my friend who took me in Texas, it was a more obvious thing where her mother would never accept that I was taking a shower every day, that I was not that person that walked in that first night where I definitely needed a shower. So, you have to live with that stigma sometimes. You aren't ashamed that you were homeless. There's a part of you that wants to feel proud that you survived. But people don't look at it that way. Once they know you've been homeless, they look at you differently. So just be careful. It's not something you need to advertise. And again, it's not out of shame, it's just out of self preservation. And just to let people know who you are based on who you are that day, based on who you are going forward, not who you were going backwards. So, so keep that in mind and realize that making a plan, and we're going to talk about this soon, making a plan about how best to survive it when you're homeless, to prepare yourself to not be homeless, is the same process works if you find a place to stay. But it only works if you know that it's a need, and if you're aware that the sense of homelessness, the trauma, the PTSD that you suffer because invariably you've been robbed, you've been mocked, you've been cold, you've been wet. I always go back to the idea that homeless people never seem to have belts. I swear last time I was homeless, my belt broke the first night, and it was shattering just because that was always an issue for me. But if you look around you with your homeless brothers and sisters, a lot of them are walking around holding up their pants. Now, the reason for that isn't because they don't have belts or because their belts broke. The reason for that is usually malnutrition. So, belts and socks and shoes, boy, if you can have those things, you're at least, feeling a little bit more comfortable, and you're less likely to suffer some of the elements. But the fact of the matter is that it's a hell of a way to live. It's an impossible way to live. but yet here you are. You have to live it, you have to manage it, you have to survive it. So I just want to be clear that while I say stay homeless, the reason I say that is because in my mind, the perfect situation is to either be at a shelter, or if you're in a position where you have no choice but to be on the street, that you organize your thinking and you manage your life in a way where you're ready when the time comes, or where you find the help you need, but that you keep your mind straight, because you're going to see things, you're going to experience things that are going to haunt you. And the problem with that is that you think anything you experience bad, you think you deserve it. That's just, I'd like to think that I've more than made up for my mistakes in the past. Yet I still get messages from people I've hurt, basically putting me down and not believing that I've changed one bit. And after I got through my open heart surgery and my hernia surgery and took good care of my health and quit drinking and all of that, now I've got this memory loss thing. Now I've got a bum knee. Your body's gonna heal more slowly than your mind. So you can work on your mind, but your body, you're gonna have to make sure you're getting the proper health care so that you know what needs to be corrected, what needs to be worked on. But it's a hard life on your body, that's for sure. But if it's hard on your mind to the point where your mind can't recover, you're not going to recover. So, but I believe you will recover. I believe that you'll survive. And then I believe you'll help other people. And my last thought is that I can recall when I wasn't homeless any longer, the last thing I wanted to do was to be around homeless people. In your mind you think, well, now I'm going to give back. I'm going to go, volunteer at the shelter. I'm going to go. But for me, it was volunteering at the shelter would have just been a reminder of the horror of a life that I lived. But after a while, you do come up with something that you feel like you can do. For me, it's this video series, and it's this program. So when you find that you're ready for that, you're on your way back mentally. So stay strong, stay homeless, and take care of yourself out there. Until next time.